Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Bedtime stories have a very powerful effect on a child. When we narrate a bedtime story to a child, the moral and the message within the story goes deep within the child's brain as the child sleeps and wakes up the next day. And this cycle repeats over the growth phase of a child. And the moral messaging and the conditioning that is given to the child is what becomes the belief and the value system of a child as the child progresses to become a teenager and then a young adult. Therefore, stories have an enduring and lasting impact on every human being's life. Sometimes we are aware of the impact. Most of the time we are not aware of this impact the stories are having on us. So, stories matter. The first set of stories are the stories that we tell ourselves about the world around. And we tend to believe that these stories are true. And based on that, we tend to act. And the second set of stories is what the world is telling us. And these stories also, most of the time, we accept without being curious, without validating or verifying. So both the stories which come from within and the stories that come from the outside world have a great impact. In essence, as leaders, it's important to use storytelling as a key medium of communication in order to reach into the heart of the people to whom we are communicating. This is the endeavor that I am making in today's session. So let's begin. Bedtime stories for leaders. The first story I want to tell you is that of the lion and the mouse. So the story goes like this. Once upon a time, long, long ago, in a beautiful forest, there was a lion who had just made a kill and, having eaten his prey, was resting under a tree in the shade. And as the lion was resting under the shade by the tree, it fell asleep. And as it fell asleep, there came a tiny little mouse running around playing in the area near the lion. And in its mirthful play, it stepped on the lion's nose. Of course, it was by mistake. But the lion, having been woken up from deep slumber, was annoyed, and having been annoyed, wanted to teach the little mouse a good lesson. So, the lion held the mouse's tail by its hefty paw and threatened to kill the tiny little mouse. That is when the clever mouse thought of a plan. And it pleaded to the lion, "Mr. Lion, before you kill me, please listen to my story." And the story I want to tell you is, even though I am small, I can be useful. Definitely, there will be a time in some point in future when you can make use of my skill and my talent. So, keeping that in mind, can you spare my life? As it is, you have already eaten. I'm sure you are not hungry and I'm so small, how can I fill your stomach? Having heard this plea from the mouse, the lion thought deep and hard and felt a little bit of pity. And having felt pity, it said, "What can a tiny little mouse be of use to me in the future? Nevertheless, since I'm happy, let me let it go." And so the mouse was spared by the lion. And as the story goes, one fine day, there was a poacher who entered the forest. The poacher had set a lion trap, and the lion, which was hunting, fell into the poacher's trap. And having been trapped in the poacher's net, the lion was not able to escape. And it was struggling to escape from the poacher's net. That is when the playful little mouse came back again to that area in the forest. And this time it called out to the lion and said, "Hey, Mr. Lion, worry you not. I will certainly help you." The lion was mighty pleased, but wondered how can the mouse help him. The mouse quickly set to work and started to nibble away at the fabric of the net. And soon, within a few hours, the lion was freed. And having been freed, both of them were very good friends ever after. So that is the story. Now, what are the insights and learnings that we can take as leaders? Are there any messages for us in the corporate world from that bedtime story of the lion and the mouse? In fact, there are. So let's take a look. The first insight that we gain from the story is, if you are the mouse, make sure your elevator pitch is always made with conviction. The elevator pitch should be made to your sponsorer or the leader or the person to whom you are expecting some funds. And to make an elevator pitch without conviction is never going to work. An elevator pitch has to be brief and it has to have conviction. And that elevator pitch which the mouse made to the lion won him his life. So pitch with confidence and conviction. Insight number 2, see the possibility and invest. So the lion had no incremental advantage of satisfying his hunger by eating the mouse. But since he was already satiated, he had a surplus of energy. By letting go of the mouse and letting it live for a few more days and weeks, he made an investment in the possibility that the mouse can save him one fine day. And that is what worked for the lion in the hour of his need. And the hour of his need is something that none of us can predict in our lives. Therefore, invest by thinking of a possibility of its use in the future. So, the key is to be able to see the possibility, and not everybody is able to see the possibility as things unravel in the world, as things are complex, volatile, uncertain and ambiguous most of the time. But if you are a leader, you will be able to see the possibility in all of that complexity. And based on that, what you can envision, you make an investment of time, energy and resources. Insight number 3, deliver on your commitment. The mouse made a promise and the mouse delivered on its commitment. By delivering on its commitment, it made a lifelong friend in the lion. And that partnership will serve both of them extremely well and will allow both of them to scale their business in every opportunity of the market in the future. So possibility thinking and keeping to commitment encourages partnerships. Partnerships work if commitments are kept, and if commitments are kept, then partnerships are reinforced. Insight number 4. Size as a strength is only a mirage. Now, for the lion, being big as compared to the mouse may seem as a strength in that moment when the lion was able to catch the mouse. And when the roles reversed, when the lion was in the net, it was the size of the mouse that helped the mouse to nibble away the net and free the lion. So size does not matter. But timing does. Timing does. So size as an advantage is only a fallacy. Please always keep that in mind. And timing is critical to success. Timing is critical to success. What matters is when you do certain things. They have a great impact in you achieving success as you may be on the critical path. And for you to identify what are those activities on the critical path and acting at the right time is of essence to achieve success. So those were the learnings from the story of the lion and the mouse. Now, let's go to the next story. The next story is called The Boy Who Cried Wolf. So this story is about a shepherd boy who is shepherding his sheep on top of a hill near a village. And out of sheer boredom and a little bit of naughtiness, he just cried out, "Help me, help me," because he wanted to have some fun. And he said, "Help me, the wolf is attacking my sheep." So all the villagers rushed up the hill and only saw that the boy was laughing at them and mocked at them for having believed him. So the people in the village just let it go because it was a boy, and they went back to their busy work below the hill. And the same behavior repeated a couple of days later, and then again once more. And finally, one day, wolves did attack the flock of sheep, and the boys did cry out for help, but help he did not receive because everybody were deaf to his cries of help. Everybody was comfortably numb to the boy's cries of help. He had completely desensitized them, and therefore he lost all his sheep. So, what are the insights and morals from this story? Number 1, honesty and integrity. Honesty is that aspect of a human being to speak of only what he believes or she believes is true. And integrity is to act as what you have spoken. So honesty and integrity are priceless for leaders. Honesty and integrity are priceless, non-negotiable characteristic for every leader, because that is the hallmark of building credibility with your audience, with your people, with your team. There is no way a leader can succeed consistently in the long term without these intangible, priceless assets. So do not lower your guard. Always guard your honesty and integrity and grow these assets in value. Number 2, spamming is damaging for the brand. Do not spam your market and your consumers with a lot of brand messaging, because you will be creating complete dissonance with the brand. And just like the boy calling out for help when he did not need it, the consumers would become comfortably numb. They will be desensitized to your brand. So do not spam. Instead, build a brand story. And building a brand story is about being credibly consistent and consistently credible. You have to be consistently credible. That means the same actions delivered over a long period of time, no matter what the scenario or situation in the market space. Brand is a promise, so keep the promise in your communications and demonstrate that the brand is keeping the promise over a long period of time in order to attain credibility. And that can only happen if you're consistent with the brand messaging. Number 4, nobody appreciates time wasters. Especially today, there is a huge, overwhelming amount of information flooding into people's brains. So it's extremely important that your message, your story, your content carries an intent which is meaningfully reaching the heart, and through the heart, the mind of your consumer or your target audience. Otherwise, you will lead to people become comfortably numb and desensitized towards your brand, and your brand will lose its appeal. It is not the duration in which the brand has survived in the market space that matters today. What matters is the ability of the brand to engage people in the digital space consistently, meaningfully, through storytelling to stay relevant within this ephemeral world of digital branding and marketing. So that was our second story. Now let's go to the third story. The third story is called as Belling the Cat. So the story goes like this. There was a grocery store, and in the grocery store there were a lot of mice. The mice were always eating away the grocer's stock, creating a huge problem and damaging his goods. So one day, out of mere frustration, the grocer went out to buy a cat. And he bought a cat and brought this cat back to his store. So over a period of next few days, the cat began to attack all the mice within the store. And as he would have imagined it, the population of the mice began to drop down drastically, thereby making the grocer very happy, and the cat was feeding its belly every day. So the mice population called for an emergency board meeting, and the leader of the mice said, "We need to take immediate action, or else we will be wiped out clean by the new cat who is eating us every day." So he asked for help, and he said at the table, "Can someone come up with an idea?" So in the meeting, there was an idea, and the idea generated by the team was, let us bell the cat so that when the cat is about, we will be able to hear the jingle of the bell, and then we can run away, be forewarned when the cat arrives, and thereby saving our lives. Very good idea, but who is to execute? So when the leader of the mice asked who will volunteer to execute, nobody did in the beginning. None of the adults did, adult mice. Then one young mice came out and said, "I will volunteer." So they allowed this young mice to carry the bell and go out. And as the story goes, the mouse went out and met the cat. The cat was about to pounce and eat him away. But before he could do that, the mouse said, "Please, Mr. Cat, can you listen to what I have to propose to you?" So the cat said, "Okay, I'm anyway going to have him for lunch, so let me listen to what he has to say. So he started praising the cat. Oh, you're such a beautiful cat. You look really lovely and beautiful. And I think your beauty will be enhanced if you look at these bells and if you can wear these bells. So the cat was mighty pleased. And the cat said, okay, let me try it on. So the mouse helped the cat wear the bell. And the cat went near a mirror to see his own reflection. And he saw that the bell looks very good on himself and was mighty pleased. And the mouse started to praise the cat even more, reinforcing the perception of beauty in the cat. And as this was happening, the mouse slowly slipped away. So the cat was very happy with the bell, but because of the bell, the cat was never able to catch even one tiny mouse. And the cat went hungry. And the mice succeeded. So this is the story of Who Will Bell the Cat. What are the lessons? Lesson number 1. A leader is one who acts, not the one with the title. Always take initiative and show leadership even if you do not have the leader title attached to your name card. So the one who takes initiative and acts on the idea generated by the team, shows proactive initiative and acts on the idea is the true leader. Number 2, create a consumer pull that is contextual. So the mouse created a pull. So he first praised the cat, and then by praising the cat offered him some benefits and created a perception that this is what will look good on him, which he believed. Therefore, you have to create a contextual consumer pull in order to successfully communicate your brand story to the audience. It cannot be a direct sell. It will not work. The mice did not go up to the cat and say, hey, this is the bell, please wear it, so that when you wear it, we will be able to get the alarm and escape every time you come out. So there is a certain way to convey the message that can be appealing, and that creates the consumer pull. So contextualize your brand message in order to bring in relevance. Reinforce branding to retain market share with the consumer. So when the cat went to look at its own reflection, the mouse was reinforcing the perception that this is beautiful on you. And reinforcement is highly effective tactic. And it works every time, provided you have laid the foundation and created a strong brand story in the first place. Complexity confuses you and fogs your view. And this is what happened to the cat. He could have been very simple and there was no necessary for the bell or the jewelry in his life, but he just added on something that was proposed to him, thereby added complexity, and he did not know how to deal with that complexity. So, complexity is draining away energy and it fogs your view. You will not be able to perceive things clearly. Therefore, keep things simple. Being simple is powerful, but being simple is not always easy. So that was our third story. And the fourth story is the story of Hare and the Tortoise. It's a fairly simple story, but a very powerful message. So the hare thought that it was fastest among everybody in the forest and challenged the tortoise for a race. And everybody in the forest lined up. They started the race. The hare went very fast, ran very fast in the first phase of the race, and the tortoise started to walk at its own pace, but continued to walk without stopping. The hare, after an hour, saw that the tortoise was nowhere in sight. Therefore, it decided to take a detour, went and had a lot of carrots in the field, and having eaten a lot of carrots, went to sleep, took a nice deep nap. And by the time he woke up, he saw that the tortoise was almost at the finish line, and the tortoise came first and the hare did not. So that's the story of the hare and the tortoise. So what is the message behind this bedtime story? Number one, consistency leads to compounding. If you consistently put in your efforts or consistently invest, you will enjoy the fruits of compounding. And compounding is extremely powerful. So, if you look at the chessboard and you start counting from the first corner square, start with 1 and see what number you end up with by the time you traverse the chess square at the end on the other side. It's an astounding number. That's the power of compounding. But you have to be consistent in your efforts. No matter what you do, whether in corporate life or in personal life, you pick a challenge or a project and be consistent in your approach. And consistency gives you the power to refine your approach on a daily basis so that you can achieve success by increasing your signal strength, by increasing your focus and reducing the negativity created by the noise in the external environment. Number 2, stay invested. Stay invested. Be blind, deaf and thick-skinned to all external criticism, because what you can see, others are not able to. Therefore, you need to stay invested in your vision. Number 3, strategy works over long term. There is no short-term strategy. There is no short-term strategy. Short-term strategy does not exist. Strategy is always subtle and always long-term, because the trade-offs that you make and the interrelationships between the trade-offs that you make and the outcomes that you choose to create take time, and they cannot be concocted or cooked in a short while. There are so many interdependencies and there are so many factors in the external environment and internal environment which are constantly competing for resources. And for strategy to work, you have to have a long-term, consistent mindset. Number 4, be curious, build scenarios. So the hare had a preconceived notion that the tortoise can only do this much. It had a preconceived notion. It created a barrier for itself by not being curious. So always build scenarios. Do not underestimate your competition and do not presuppose what the competition is able or not able to achieve, because you do not have all of the information of the internal environment of your competition. So keep in mind that you have to be curious and you have to have the ability to question yourself and your thinking approach by building scenarios and evaluating the pros and cons of each scenario and allowing yourself for dynamic changes in the internal and external environment while you build those scenarios. And the last learning is endurance is key to long-term sustainable success. No matter what you want to achieve in life, you will need endurance, because when you want to climb Mount Everest, when you want the highest success in your life, then you have to be prepared for long-term endurance against trials and tribulations and failures. As Edmund Hillary said, it is not the mountain that we conquer, but ourselves. So, I hope you enjoyed listening to these bedtime stories with key messaging for leaders. Thank you.